What's up, everyone? We are back for another episode of TMP. And today, my very special guest, one of the legends, a real bodybuilding icon, Mr. Lee Labrada. Lee, thank you for making the time, man. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to talking to you for quite some time. But I'm glad I had Hunter first because now I got a lot of follow-up questions that I want to talk to you about. But thanks first for making the time because I know you're busy. And I really appreciate you making the time
Dennis,
for me.
It's an honor. It's an honor. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Awesome. So Lee, I don't even know where to start with you because I remember you. How far do I have to go back now? I'm gonna tell you right now. The first time I saw you in person, you probably don't even remember, but I think I told you years ago. The first time I saw you in person was in Germany. It was in Germany. It was in Switzerland. It was at Fitzemeyer's gym.
Oh my gosh! Yes. Oh my gosh!
I was there.
That is really going far back. I used to spend quite a bit of time in Schwetzingen with Werner Fitzmeyer,
yes,
who had all of the clubs in that area, and we're still very good friends to this day.
Yeah, but back then it was still the gym downstairs. You remember that little gym he had? It's called.
Oh yes, the hardcore station.
Yes, the Scheffelstrasse.
That's right.
And I remember I wasn't bodybuilding. I was just interested in bodybuilding, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, there's this American this Olympian bodybuilder in Schwetzingen." So we drove. It was a Sunday afternoon. I remember that because you did post a little bit. It's not like a guest appearance. It was more kind of like almost private. It was a lot of people there, but it was in
like a gym seminar.
Gym seminar, exactly. That's what it was. And yes. I remember I was like, look at this dude, man. How can you even look? And I was, how old was I? I was probably, I don't know, maybe 18, 19, maybe 20. I don't even remember. But it was forever ago.
So I would have been about 28 or 29, about 28 years old at the time. And I gotta tell you something. You know, I was looking at some of your photos online the other day, and man, you have an amazing physique.
Thank you, man.
I mean, you really what a great champion you are.
I appreciate that. Coming from you, I know that means the world because I mean, who knows if Lee Labrada doesn't know, who else is out there that's still around that would know. So I really appreciate that. Now, let me talk about you. What I also found out about you when last time we sat down at a table in Spain, that was years ago, when I realized that you speak Spanish. I said, wait, I remember I asked you.
I speak Spanish.
Yeah, I said, how come you speak Spanish? I said, you're born in Havana, Cuba.
I was born in Havana, Cuba. That's right. And I immigrated to the United States when I was 2 years old with my grandmother.
Oh.
We were joined about 6 months later with my mom and dad, and we started our life here in the United States.
Okay, so you never really lived in Cuba for long. So just 2 years old, and you migrated.
I was just 2 years old. Yes, I don't really remember much.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So where did you move to? Like Miami, like almost everyone from Cuba?
So no, actually we moved to Chicago.
Okay.
Chicago, and then from there, when I was about 10 years old, we moved to Florida, and it was in Jacksonville, Florida, that I actually got my start in bodybuilding. I was trying to put on weight for football for the football team. And I ended up getting hurt, and I ended up in the weight room. And I figured out pretty quickly that at 5'6" inches tall, I was going to be a better bodybuilder than a better football player.
Well, at 5'6", there's not a lot of football players at that height. So yeah. So what time? How old were you when you started lifting?
17 years old, and started when I was 17. And about 3 months later, I entered my first bodybuilding competition, which was the AAU Teenage Mr. Jacksonville, Florida. And I remember showing up, Dennis, to this show and being backstage with all of these teenagers that I just thought were massive at the time. I mean, they outweighed me by 30, 40 pounds. And I almost put my warm-ups on and went home. I mean, I thought to myself, there's no way. I mean, how can I compete against these guys? They're just enormous. But evidently, I'd done a pretty good job of conditioning myself. And I didn't have a lot of body fat on me. When the results came back that night, I had actually won the competition, much to my amazement and surprise. But that's what got me hooked.
Yeah, I mean, you have a remarkable career. I mean, if I'm correct, I'm not sure. I mean, out of 31 shows total that you competed in, you never once been out of the top 5.
As a pro, I was never once out of the top 5.
Yeah.
I was top 4 in the Mr. Olympia 7 consecutive years from my debut until I bowed out.
Yeah,
so I competed in 7. I was top 4 in all 7.
I did my homework on you, Lee. I got you here with 31 shows. That's total, okay?
Uh-huh.
You've been you've been 5th twice in your career. You've been 4th 3 times, 3rd 5 times, 2nd 8 times, and you won 13 times. So that's unbelievable. So you don't even know what it's like being. You don't even know what it's like being in the last call out or the 3rd call out.
Well, let me tell you, I've actually had a taste of that.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I competed in the nationals for the first time in 1984, and they gave out trophies for 1st through 3rd place, and I was not in the 1st through 3rd place. So I went home not knowing where I had placed. I thought that I had not placed at all. And so I was really despondent. And I went back to my hotel room, and it actually ran through my head to quit. And I'm glad I didn't, obviously. But I found out the next day because a judge called me. He said that you were 4th. And I said, I did not know that. And he said, yeah, they only handed out 1st through 3rd that year, but you were in 4th place. And I go, okay.
That was in 1984? 84?
That was in 84.
Okay.
And I remember John Nattyshak won the middleweight class that year. And that's the class that I was in. He was in awesome shape, great athlete.
They must have made a mistake then. They must have made a mistake because they have you in there as 5th.
Well, and well, maybe it was 5th. But I didn't get a trophy. That's what I remember. and so it motivated me. The next year I came back. I took 2nd place at the USA's. And I took 1st place in my class at the NPC Nationals.
Is that where you turned pro?
And I turned pro after the IFBB Mr. Universe, which was, I believe it was 2 weeks after the NPC Nationals. Back in the day, when you won your 85, that's right. Yeah. When you won your class at the Nationals, you had to go on and compete at the IFBB Mr. Universe, aka the IFBB Amateur World Championships.
Also,
and then you got your pro card.
Got you. So back then it wasn't like it is in the last 20 or something years where you win your class, you turn pro.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
So the universe.
Yeah, winning your class at the Nationals was a ticket to go compete for your pro card at the Mr. Universe.
Oh, okay.
You had to win your class at the. I think you had to win your class, or I think his first 2. The first 2 were allotted pro cards.
So you basically just make the team for to go to the universe when you win in the
Team
Nationals.
USA, that's right.
And then,
that's right.
And back then, the universe could have been in any country somewhere all around the world, right? Where they still had the World Championships.
Mine was in Gothenburg, Sweden. So that was really the first time I was out of the country, and it was really just an amazing experience.
That's awesome. They still do the World Championships, but the Americans don't enter the shows anymore because they have too many pro. We haven't
been sending a delegation to that for some years. That's right.
Too many pro qualifiers in the U.S. now, so they don't need to travel.
A lot of pro qualifiers. Yeah. A lot of times our best guys go straight to the pros. That's right.
Right, and I remember at the Universe, or they call it Universe in the U.S. In Europe they call it the World Championships. The overall would get a qualification to compete at the Olympia.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
And so, I won my class, and then the next show that I did was my pro debut at the IFBB Night of the Champions, which was the forerunner to the New York Pro, as we call it nowadays.
Yes.
And I won my pro debut, which to me was another surprise because of. It's like I went backstage and it was like going from amateurs to pros. It's like going from seeing cats and dogs to seeing elephants and tigers. Okay. I mean, these guys were all world class, all champions, world champions of one sort or another. And they're just built differently than the average bodybuilder. You know, they have wider shoulders, smaller waist, bigger bone structures, fuller muscle bellies. You know, because you've been there, you know, and you know, you realize that you're a good bodybuilder, you know, but when you show up backstage, you realize all those other guys are very good bodybuilders also.
So how long did it take for you to realize that, listen, I don't need to be the biggest guy. I could be the smallest guy and beat all of them? When did that kick in?
That occurred to me after I won my teenage competition. All the way back then, I realized, you know, if I'm giving away a 30, 40 pound advantage, you know, I'm realizing that this bodybuilding is not just about who the biggest guy is. You know, it's also about conditioning, how well put together you are, your bone structure, you know, the muscle bellies, just a lot of different factors.
Right.
You know, so I recognized early on that as long as I came in with great conditioning, that you know, I had that God-given package, you know, the good genetics, you know, and a complete build.
And you pass those great genetics along to your son too. I mean, that's a good thing. How was that growing up as a bodybuilder, or being a bodybuilder, having a little boy? And I remember you displayed him at the Arnold way back in the days when he was born.
I sure did. Yeah. So I actually displayed him for the first time on stage at the 1992 Pro World Cup, which was held in Spain. And afterwards, you know, Robin brought him up on stage, and as she handed Hunter to me, because he was just, I want to say about 4 months old at the time. Yeah. I remember her looking at me very intently and saying, "Don't drop him.
Don't drop. You better not drop him." Yeah.
Oh no.
I remember watching the videos. I had a lot of oil on
my hands.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was a lot of fun. You know, Dennis, it never dawned on me that he would be a professional bodybuilder one day, and never at the level that he's at. Yeah. You know, because even as a kid, when he was just 12 years old, I'm 5'6". When he was 12 years old, he was only as tall as my shoulder, and he weighed about 70 pounds. So I'm thinking to myself, this kid is not only going to be short, but he's going to be small. Okay. And I'm going, oh my gosh, you better be smart, because if he's short and small, he's going to have some ground to make up, right? And lo and behold, when he hit puberty, I mean, it was just like a switch went off. Yeah. And he just started growing and putting on muscle left and right. By the time he graduated high school, he was 205 pounds.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. But I want to get to Hunter in a second. I want to ask you something first about bodybuilding back in the 80s and the 90s, in your era, when you competed with the best of the best, and you were one of the best all time. I mean, you never placed out of the top 5. So how can you not talk about Labrada when you talk about any of the bodybuilders? Because I see people making the Hall of Fame by, you know, not even winning pro shows, but just being there and being good enough. So if you look back at your career, or at the time where you were at the top, and if you look at bodybuilding today, what do you see changed? Do you think it went, you know, other than prize money, do you think it got better, or do you think that, you know, certain things just went backwards instead?
Joe Weider's Olympia here in Orlando, Florida.
A little bit strange coming out of Las Vegas for all of those years.
Good evening, and welcome to the event that nearly never happened.
There's been an absence of a particular group of people on this stage that are back tonight. Tonight I'm here to say, welcome back to Miss Olympia.
Let's address your latter point first, because it's a very short point, and then let's talk about how bodybuilding has changed. You brought up prize money. Mm-hmm. When you factor inflation into the picture, these guys are actually making less money at the smaller regional pro shows than they were back in my day.
Okay.
Back in 1986, it was $10,000 for first place for winning the IFBB United Champions. And I don't know that it's much higher than that now. I might be mistaken, but if you adjust for inflation, it really hasn't grown, which is it's really too bad, because these guys work very, very, very hard. As far as the way that bodybuilding has changed, I would say that the guys in my era, back in the late '80s, had more of an athleticism to them. They had more of an athletic build than they do nowadays. Now, some of our more hardcore viewers would say, "Okay, well, yeah, they were less massive," and that's true. We had less muscle than the guys nowadays. On average, an Olympian today, my run in the range of 240 pounds, 240 pounds on average, and back in the day, our biggest guys, I remember Rich Gaspari in 1988 at 210 pounds. That same year, I was like about 180 pounds, so, and Lee Haney was a monster, at 245 pounds. And considered just the biggest guy there, and so it's changed in that the physiques have packed on a lot more muscle. Now, what happens to the physiques when you pack on a certain amount of muscle? When you go past a certain point, the proportion of the muscle to the length of the limb changes so drastically that it starts losing, at some point, a pleasing athletic shape. And I would dare say that that's probably the biggest difference between the physiques today and the physiques back during my era.
Do you think, would you prefer, well, we got classic physique now. So do you think
yes,
classic physique is what represents more of the 80s and 90s compared to bodybuilding?
I think that, yes. I think that, not the 90s. It started changing in the 90s. I think that the classic physique represents more of what was, the ideal back in the 80s. And I think that it's great that they have a classic physique division now, and I think it's much needed. I think it's one of the faster growing divisions around the country, around the world for that matter, and I think that it will eclipse the Open at some point, just in sheer numbers of followers.
I was just about to ask you that.
And the sheer number of participants. Now, that being said, I am a hardcore bodybuilder at heart, and I am not saying by any means that the sport should have stopped progressing or that the physique should not be bigger today. I am all for muscle size, but it has to be put on judiciously. It has to be put on in a manner that is pleasing to the eye and not at the expense of all other factors that make up a great bodybuilder.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I believe that classic will get more popular, as the years go by, because, I can see it right now that when you look at who's the most popular athlete in our industry on Instagram, for example, and I can't just stop looking at Chris Bumstead having all these followers and having all these likes, and
I want to say he's got over 2 million followers.
But his interaction, the likes that he makes for the followers. I mean, I see people with over 2 million followers; they don't get half as many likes as he does. So his fans are really actively watching whatever he does, and he's doing a good job in putting out content for everybody to see. And I think he will be I'm calling him the poster child right now, because without even trying, he's just that person that people just look up to.
I think that he is a good torchbearer for that division. I think he's doing a great job, and certainly set a good ideal for everyone in that division to aspire to.
Yeah. So when you look at Hunter now, I mean, Hunter is in his 20s, and he's already an Olympian. Let's just say that. I remember last year I saw you at the Olympia a couple of times. I saw how excited and how probably more nervous than him almost you were when, following him, the process of him doing the Olympia, he's doing his Olympia debut, and he did unbelievable. I mean, I can't say I placed 7th or 8th at my first Olympia because I didn't, So he achieved something in a much more stacked Olympia than it was when I first competed, because we only had 13 guys in the Olympia when I first stepped on the Olympia stage.
Right.
And he had a bigger lineup. And what is it like following him doing the Olympia? How nervous were you? And what advice did you give him? If you give him advice, I don't know if you ever give him advice at all, or what did you tell him before he stepped on that stage?
Yeah, Dennis, I was very excited for him. And, of course, you have children yourself, so you understand the excitement. Anybody out there that has children understands the excitement that we have when our kids succeed. And so, I was very, very excited for him. But not nervous for him from the standpoint of his ability to compete, because I do think he's a complete bodybuilder. I think he's still learning, and I think that his conditioning is improving with each outing. And certainly he just turned 29, as you mentioned. He's still in his 20s, and a lot of these guys are in their mid 30s and above. So he still has a lot of gas in the tank. He's still a young up-and-coming guy, and he's very motivated. But I wasn't nervous for him from that standpoint, just really just anxious to see how he would stack up against that stacked lineup, as you called it, because it really was. It was really stacked up. As far as advice, Hunter and I, we'll take a look at things together sometimes, and I'll give him my input. I also know when to hold back and just let him do his thing. And certainly he's a professional within his own right. He knows his body, knows his training, his nutrition, knows about how his body responds while he's peaking and that type of thing. So I'm there as an extra set of eyes. And we have spent many, many hours together over the years, just talking about different topics of bodybuilding and preparation and that type of thing. And, and I think that he's learned a lot, not just from me, but from a lot of other professionals, and has availed himself of the best in the industry, to increase his knowledge base.
What's the biggest advice you gave him? What do you think is the most important advice you ever gave him?
The biggest advice that I feel that I've given him and that he's taken to heart, and I know that there are some of you out there that have heard him say this, is that there is life after bodybuilding, and that it is a marathon, not a race. And that is something that needs to be applied by young bodybuilders, because a lot of times in their rush to put on muscle size, they end up doing things in the gym which they should not, and they end up getting injured, and tearing something, and those things can be career-ending, So that, and not doing too many shows, or abusing their physiology, So it's a marathon. It's not a race. And it's about stimulating the muscle tissue, but not annihilating your body. And then I tell them there's life after bodybuilding. One day you're going to stop bodybuilding competitively. I don't think that he'll ever stop bodybuilding. I haven't. I'm still in the gym every day.
You're still in shape too.
But I think he'll stop bodybuilding. Yeah, and you too, right? You're in the gym every day.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah. And so, what you don't want to do is end up in a wheelchair or end up on crutches, or having to have a double hip replacement, or have your knees replaced or your shoulders replaced, or have heart issues and things like that,
Yeah. It's hard to tell a young guy who's right there where, and I believe Hunter is the future of bodybuilding, just like some of these other new guys I'm going to talk to you about, that they are going to be the ones in a couple of years from now reigning the Olympia stage and battling for first, second, and third for the years to come, until the new guys come back, the new generation after those guys comes in and trying to push them out their way. But I told Hunter last week when we talked, I said, Hunter, I watched you train in Vegas. It was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years, 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember. I think it was 2000. When was the last time the Olympia was in Vegas? 19.
That would have been at least 2 years
19,
ago.
yeah, because 20 was in Orlando before. The year before
Right.
was in Vegas. And at
19,
that Olympia, I was training at it was a gym in Vegas where he was training, and I was doing a photo shoot with Gorilla Way. And I saw Hunter training. And I see him always. He always trains. You can see he doesn't matter. He probably travels. He will always find a way to find a gym. But when I saw him there, and then I saw him a year later, I was like, this was a tremendous improvement, not only in size and quality. It looked to me like he made up for years in just 1 year, And I asked him,
yes.
What did you do? What's different? Because like you mentioned earlier, you thought he was going to be a smaller guy, and right now, I mean, he's on stage 250. That's like more than 60 pounds more than you were, and how did that happen? So.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this, from the big picture perspective, obviously I contributed heavily to his genetics, but I think that he got some things from his mother's side of the family also. She's got a German in her background, so he's got a bigger frame, and he's taller than I am. And he's always been very strong from the time that he was a child. He had great tendon strength, So I think that there were some genetic advantages that Hunter got for sure. From a short-term standpoint, the reason I think for that big change that you saw year over year was that he got his bicep operated on and reattached to his shoulder, because the tendon had frayed, and once that operation was complete, and by the grace of God, it went just spectacularly. I mean, he was 100% after that. He was able to finally fully train as hard as he could, without risking tearing that thing. And I think that made a huge difference.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember he mentioned that. Yeah, he said he had an injury fixed that he probably had from who knows when. It's been lingering for many years. So looking at Hunter now, everybody talks about the Chicago Pro coming up, for the qualification for 2021. Hunter, one of the front runners, Where do you see Hunter? I mean, looking at the practice pictures, I really appreciate him putting stuff up and putting himself out there for his followers and for everybody to see what's going on. And I like that. I used to do it, and he's consistently doing it. He has no secrets. He has nothing to hide. He shows where he's at. And he's unbelievable right now for this far out from the show.
Thank you.
So
I would agree. I think he's in great shape being this far out from the show. He's improved in areas that he needed to improve on, and and I believe that if Hunter comes in dry and shredded, which I think that he can, that he's going to be hard to beat. That's not to say there won't be great athletes there that'll be giving him competition. There will be, and there's some that could beat him if he's not in his best condition.
Yeah, I mean, I say this to everybody. I said, if you're not in shape, there's a lot of people that will beat you that have no business beating you just because you're 100%. Out of shape. But
I've seen it many times.
Yeah, we saw it with Ramy. I mean, Ramy was beat by guys almost 80 pounds less just because he wasn't in shape. He wasn't in shape.
Yeah, what a nice guy, Big Ramy.
Yeah. I mean, and last year he finally came in shape and he got awarded for it. So in that show,
I got to tell you, at the Olympia, I'm not sure whether Hunter told you this or not, but Big Ramy was one of the few pros. There were several others. Dexter Jackson was great, considering it was Hunter's first time out, just took him under his wing. But Big Ramy took Hunter under his wing too, and actually was checking on him. Hunter came off stage gassed, and Big Ramy takes a towel and dries off his back and takes a piece of cardboard and starts fanning him. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's who he is.
What top professional that's trying to win a Mr. Olympia does that for another? I mean, that guy got my respect that night. Yeah. I mean, that guy, he's just an amazing human being besides being a great champion.
Yeah, see, I didn't know the story. I just heard it for the first time, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, I'm not surprised at all. That's who he is. He is just that person. He's that person.
He's a great human being.
If it was up to him, everybody would win. There would be no loser at all at the Olympia, So yeah, that's totally him.
Well, and on that note, Dennis, I will tell you, and I've told my son this, anybody that makes it to that Mr. Olympia stage is a champion. That is just something to be proud of. That is our Super Bowl. So it's like going to the Super Bowl. How many people can say they went to the Super Bowl?
True.
You know?
True. Yeah. And him in his first year went to the Olympia. Second year, he's going back. Well, he has to qualify. I almost said he's going back to the Olympia.
Yeah, let's qualify first.
But I believe he's going back to the Olympia. Now, the person that I thought was probably his biggest competition going into Chicago just announced that he won't be doing Chicago, Sergio Oliva. So I think now he's absolutely the front runner, you know, even though I don't know if is Akeem doing it now or we're not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether Akeem is doing that one or not, but certainly if he is, you have to give that guy respect.
Yes.
That guy came in sixth place at the Olympia ahead of Hunter, and he's very good.
He's very, very good when he's on. When he's very good, and he's the highest rank. If he does Chicago, he's the highest rank going in. But as far if I remember correctly, he's doing Puerto Rico in a couple of weeks. So and I highly doubt that if he wins Puerto Rico and qualifies, that he will go to Chicago and potentially risk to lose the show against someone who's going to be going against him at the Olympia again. So that I don't think that would be the smartest thing to do, unless you are so confident in yourself and think you can win 2 or 3 shows. So I think Hunter.
And Dennis, you know, I want to recognize all of those other pros that are going to be entering the Chicago Pro as well. Listen, none of those guys are slouches.
Yes.
All of those guys are champions in their own right.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and the lineup's going to be stacked. It's going to be a great show. You know, I'm really looking forward to it. So we only have 3. Wait a minute. We got Puerto Rico, Chicago. We got Texas. And then we have Tampa. Those are the last shows in our region for guys.
Yes, those guys, those pros got bottlenecked this year when they changed the timing on the Mr. Olympia. Mm-hmm. You know, they had to qualify in a hurry.
Yeah, and it's not even going to be enough time for some of the guys to compete more. So they can maybe ramp up a few points if they don't win shows, you know. So it's going to be hard, you know. Why would someone choose the last show to compete and qualify? Because
That's right.
We can't forget we got Hunter, we got Ian Valliere, we have Sergio Oliva, Akeem, Rolly Winkler. We got, potentially a lot of potential.
All great athletes.
Yes. I mean. What do you see happening? You see Hunter winning? I think he's going to be in shape because if you look the way he does right now.
I think he's just based on what I'm seeing and based on what I know about the game plan, about the approach. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be rock hard. And in my book, if he's rock hard, he's hard to beat.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not one that goes out and makes prognostications, about somebody being the sure winner. But I'll tell you what, if he comes in rock hard, it'll take something special to beat him.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if he's the condition, and he's consistent with conditions, so I wouldn't bet on him not being in shape. If you ask me, I would say no. Yeah. Especially,
he's heading that way for sure.
Yeah,
he's not too far off the mark.
Yeah. Do you think he's got potential to get even bigger, or would you tell him just to not get too big and don't lose the?
Do I think he's got potential to get bigger?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do think he has the potential to get bigger. I think he needs to be selective about where he gets bigger. Because again, you know, some things like his legs, are just, they're mind blowing.
Yes.
Right. But he doesn't need to get his legs bigger, you know, and he knows which areas that he needs to work on in his upper body. And so, I do think he has gas left in the tank, as I like to say. At 29 years old, I see him still improving from year to year for many years to come. And I think he's going to become formidable. I do see a Mr. Olympia win in his future.
Yeah. Me too. And I was just going to ask you the question: do you see Hunter winning the Olympia in the future? It's absolutely, yes.
I think he's a future Mr. Olympia. Yes.
Yes.
I'm his father.
Yeah. I asked,
and we'll see who shows up.
Yeah.
Because you know how that is.
I asked him the question last week. I said, Hunter, tell me the truth. I said, Is there something in the back of your mind that tells you need to win the Olympia so you can say, I beat you, Dad? Because he always got. I said, oh, did you guys ever get to the point where did your dad ever somehow mention even this as a joke? He said, hey, listen, you play second or you win, then we can talk. He said, yeah, there's been situations where you basically mentioned, where you placed, and so his goal, of course, is to win the Olympia. It's not like he would put it in your face. He said, but that would.
No. My gosh, if I would love for him to win.
Yes.
the Mr. Olympia. I have told him before, Dennis. I have told him, Hunter, you're going to finish what I started. Mm-hmm. You're going to finish what I could not do. You're going to be Mr. Olympia one day.
Yeah, that's crazy for you to say it, because you had this awesome career. Now you're looking at your son, starting off the same way, winning everything, and then make it to the Olympia. And now we've definitely had parallel career paths all through his amateur and pro debut and whatnot. And I got to tell you, he has surprised me at each stage. Every time that he's gotten to a higher level, to a different level, he has surprised me. He's exceeded my expectations. So. I tend to be hard on him, in terms of when I look at him and analyzing him and that type of thing. I'm the one that will drill in on a weak point, and I'll tell him. He doesn't like to hear that sometimes, but I think that he knows that I do it with the best intentions and love in my heart. Just wanting to make him better. Yeah. Did you in the beginning? You weren't really for him being a bodybuilder. You said you wanted him to play football. There was something where he mentioned that you didn't really want him to go the bodybuilding route.
Yeah. I never pushed Hunter to go into bodybuilding, because I just didn't feel that it was appropriate. We always required our boys. I have 3 boys. Hunter's the oldest. I have Blade, that's in the middle, and then Pierce, the youngest, who's been hitting the gym of late. And they've always loved football, and we're football players. We just required them to do a sport of their choice. So Hunter has played hockey. Hunter has played football. The others have played football, baseball, different things. We just always wanted them to participate in the sport. But he really didn't get hooked on weights until he was a young teenager and started doing it for football. And it wasn't really like until about his 18th year, when he went off to play college football, that he realized that he wanted to be a professional bodybuilder. I still remember that, by the way. I'm not sure whether he told you that story or not, but he went off to play college football, Division II college football at Bentley University, just outside of Boston. And that first year, he told me, Dad, he goes, I don't want to play football anymore. It's just not in my heart. And I tried to keep him in football.
Yeah.
I tried to, I wanted him to have the college football experience, But something he said really stuck with me. And he said, "Listen, my heart's not in it, and if my heart's not in it, I'm not going to give it 100%. If I'm not giving it 100%, I stand a risk of getting hurt. Because this is not a sport that you play and you hold back. And if I get hurt, then I'm not going to be able to pursue my dream of being a professional bodybuilder." I go, okay.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else. Every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on trifecta.
All right, he's got a point there. And as it turned out, he was right.
Yeah, he's proven to be right in every sense of the word. So that's good to see, and I'm glad that you are in his corner. And it's also, how much, it's also great for the company. Labrada Nutrition. You raise his son, you raise him into the sport, and he's one of the best in the world representing Labrada Nutrition. How much better can it get for someone?
It's great. We've had just wonderful opportunities to work together. Most recently, on a line, I hope you don't mind me mentioning.
You go ahead, mention whatever you want. Yes.
Sure. Well, I was just going to let everybody know that Hunter and I just actually launched a Pro Series line of Labrada supplements. There's just 3 products in the stack, but it's a pre-workout, a intra workout that you take during the workout, and then a post-workout, which is a hydrolyzed whey protein based product. And they're just amazing. And literally what I did with Hunter was we designed these formulas with the pro bodybuilder in mind. So we pulled out all the stops. Cost was no object, and so we basically put together a Lamborghini of a supplement, and it's available only direct to consumer. Because of that, there's just not enough margin in it to go through the traditional retail channels.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm glad you mentioned it, especially intra, because I'm a big advocate when it comes to intra workout drinks. And there was nothing available, and especially so we had to put our own drink together. We used the BCAAs or whatever, you use amino acids, and you use some simple carbs during workout. So what is yours like? What the intra workout? What's in there?
Well, it's got a very advanced carbohydrate called cyclodextrin, it's got amino acids in it. It's got electrolytes in it. Coconut water. I mean, it's just a very complete 360, degree type of approach to supplying the things that you need during the workout. It even has leucine in it for triggering muscle protein synthesis. So again, just designed with the bodybuilder in mind.
So when you design a intro workout like that, do you think about bodybuilders, because those are the guys probably taking advantage of it.
Oh, sure.
So let's say for the serving that you offer, how many grams of carbs and how many amino acids are in it?
Dennis, you put me on the spot. I don't have those memorized.
Okay.
You can find them on LabradaProSeries.com.
Okay.
And and it's all the technical information is there.
When are you going to launch?
But I will tell you this line is what I call the race team. Okay, the factory team, because Ford, for instance, they make great consumer cars, but they have a racing team. They have a factory team. This is the stuff that the pros use. This is made for professional athletes and serious athletes only.
Well, let me see if I can get a hold of some samples, maybe.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have to hit you up on that, because I really,
100%.
I'll
be glad to be tickled for you to use them.
Yeah, because even the people I work with, I always advise, listen, intra workout is so important. Mix it together.
It really is.
Yeah, mix it together. And if you have a product that's already complete, that's exactly what people are looking for, and I think they will do very, very well.
Yeah, makes all the difference. It really does. Yeah, I mean, it just keeps you going. Keeps you going.
So back in your days, I want to ask you this question. Back in your days, when you started bodybuilding, or when you're just coming up, realizing that this is something that you're going to be doing for quite some time, who did you look up to? Who was the physique, or who inspired you to, especially with your posing? Is that, did you create it yourself, or did you look up to someone and kind of got some ideas?
Well, I'll tell you this: the guys that inspired me, if I tell you, you're going to go, what? I was inspired by Mike Mentzer, if you can believe that.
No, I believe
it. Our physiques could not be any more different. And then you would say, well, then what inspired you? Well, what inspired me is that I thought of Mike Mentzer as a thinking man's bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. I liked his maverick approach to training at the time. The high intensity training, HIIT training, was new, and it's something that I adapted to my own training. Even though my physique doesn't look like a heavy duty physique in the most traditional sense, I used those types of training systems, and I felt that they were very effective for me. And interestingly enough, Hunter himself has adapted those types of systems. He is one that will do several warm-up sets, but then the number of active working sets that he does, it's just 2 or 3 active working sets, Yeah,
he mentioned it. Yeah, and you know what? And I did the same, and it worked for me too.
It works.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, again, it's just that once you're warmed up, you want to tax that muscle as much as possible with as much weight and stress as possible, and just totally fatigue it as quickly as you can. If you do that, the body will reward you with growth. Now, you asked a second part to your question. Who inspired me from a posing standpoint? I've become known as one of the better posers, over the years. The guys that were my early influences were Ed Corney and Muhammad Makwi.
Muhammad. I remember Muhammad. Yes.
Yeah. Incredible posers in their own right. And what really caught my attention about those guys were their phenomenal ability to transition between one pose and the next. See, I think that posing is as a combination of static poses. For example, a front double bicep or a front lat spread, the traditional poses. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a static pose. That's not moving. You just hit that pose, right? But then I also think that there are dynamic poses. Dynamic poses are the transitions from one static pose to the next.
Right.
So you can look really clunky. And I've known some Mr. Olympias that look very clunky doing that, or you can look like Michelangelo's David in motion, And so, what would you rather do? If I'm going to spend that much time building my physique, I want to look like a statue in motion.
Right. Did you spend a lot of time posing, or did this come easy to you and you just?
It was something that I worked on every day, just like I did cardio. I did posing practice. I'll be honest with you, it wasn't always my favorite. And people would say, what? With as good as you pose, and you're saying that posing wasn't your favorite thing to do? I enjoyed it, but there were times that I did not, because I was just too tired from having done that day's workout, from having done my cardio, from dieting. And man, it was just all I could do to drag myself through posing practice. So it was difficult. And then on difficult days, I didn't like it. And then there's those days, when I have enough energy, and, I still do this. Sometimes I'll go out into my studio and I'll turn on some music and I'll improvise. Yeah. It reminds me of something that Chris Dickerson, the old time Mr. Olympia, once told me. It was back in the late 80s, and I had him over to my house in Marina del Rey, and Robin cooked dinner for us. And it was just weeks before the '88 Olympia in Los Angeles. And I remember telling Chris, Chris, I'm just so tired of this. I just can't wait till I'm retire from bodybuilding. He goes, Lee, once a bodybuilder, always a bodybuilder.
True.
And it's just so true. It's in my blood. I work out every day.
Yeah.
And like I said, I still enjoy posing, and I enjoy helping some of the up and coming pros like my son.
How come you're in such good shape? Do you diet all year round? What is it? Or you just naturally always lean? Because I just saw a picture the other day with you comparing quads with Hunter. I mean, come on now, Lee. That's not normal. How old are you now?
No, I don't think it's normal. It's part of my genetic makeup. I was always one of these ecto-meso guys. Okay. The guys that had trouble keeping on weight. That had to eat a lot of food to keep on the weight. And as I've gotten older, I don't diet. I don't go hungry. No. I eat as much as I want, but I do eat good, natural, clean food. That doesn't mean that I won't have a small slice of cheesecake or a scoop of ice cream every once in a while. I eat a small piece of chocolate almost every night.
Yeah, but the way you just said it, yeah, it's not like I don't eat a small piece of cheesecake or a scoop of ice cream every once in a while. That means you eat clean, and you basically just sometimes treat yourself for a little bit. I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
But I will tell you in the same breath that I can eat clean food until it's coming out my ears. Yeah. In other words, I eat as much as I want. I don't, as much chicken, fish, lean meat, protein shakes, as much fruit, vegetables, potatoes, sweet potatoes, oatmeal, cream of rice, black beans and rice. I eat a wide variety of natural foods, including lots of complex carbohydrates. So I don't feel like I'm dieting. And it's just, my body has a thermostat in it, and once I reach a certain point, I just can't eat anymore. My appetite shuts off.
Yeah.
And I was always lean as a kid, and I'm lean now as an older adult.
Super lean. That's not regular lean. You're super lean. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm doing hours and hours of cardio a day, and I can't get to that. I can't get to it no more.
You know what, though? You're a much larger guy than I am, though. I mean, you just got a bigger frame and a lot more muscle than I do, you know?
Yeah, but still, I try to get lean. I try to get, I can not eat carbs for 2-3 weeks, you know.
No, you got to eat carbs, I eat a lot of carbs myself, but again, it's clean carbs. It's typically steamed rice, and then my wife makes these delicious Cuban-style black beans. She's got a great recipe for those, and I pour those on top. I eat those every day.
Yeah. Do you still do cardio? You do a lot of cardio?
If I'm being perfectly honest with you, which I am, I don't do a lot of cardio.
Mm-hmm.
I get the cardio work from my training. I move at a pretty fast clip. When I do my weight training, and my heart rate seldom goes down below about 100, 110.
So you keep it always high. That's why, yeah.
Yeah. I keep moving during my weight training workout. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That doesn't mean I don't do any cardio, but I'm not a huge fan.
Gotcha. See, I'm a huge fan of cardio. I love cardio. I don't understand why. I can do 2 hours of Stairmaster every day, and if I don't do it, I feel like I'm missing out on something. I cannot train for weeks, but I have to do cardio, some kind of cardio.
Well, you know what? And you probably have a very wonderful, healthy heart as a result.
I don't know. I really don't know, but I just love cardio because I know I can, I can get away with eating. I eat clean. So let's not call it diet. I just eat clean, but I eat as much as I want to. If I'm hungry, I'm not stopping until I'm not hungry anymore. But I only eat like 3, maximum 4 meals a day. How many meals do you still get in?
I'm still eating 5 meals a day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that means that I'm eating smaller amounts. I can't keep my weight on if I only eat 3 times a day. So I eat about every 2.5 to 3 hours. And when people go, man, how on earth do you eat 5 times a day? I mean, how do you find the time to do that? Super easy. Mm-hmm. It's 3 meals. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then a protein shake and a small amount of carbohydrate, like a whole grain muffin or a banana or something like that at mid-morning and mid-afternoon. That's 5 meals.
Yeah, true. You don't have to do that much. 5 meals is not much. I don't know. This is just for the average people. They don't understand how you can eat every 3 hours. Who's hungry every 3 hours?
We're hungry every 3 hours, and I will tell you this from talking to people in the medical community, probably one of the healthiest ways to eat. It's the way that diabetics eat, in order to keep their blood sugar stabilized.
True. Yeah. There's a lot of things bodybuilders do that are actually good for you. And, and looking back at the bodybuilding back then and bodybuilding today, they're obviously way bigger now, average, way bigger.
Yeah.
But what would you like to see change and nowadays, or let's just look at the posing routines. I mean, they stopped judging posing years and years ago. Did you think that hurt the sport a little bit by these guys not paying attention to the posing routines anymore?
100%. Because the thing is, if you are not awarding any points for presentation, okay, then there's zero incentive for the athlete to work at all on the presentation. And to me, presentation is necessary in order to show the muscles off to the best of your ability. Yeah. To show the judges and the audience your development fully, you need to be able to pose them well. Yeah. And a lot of guys can't do that. A lot of guys will only work on their mandatory posing, but they won't work on their freestyle posing. And again, I think it's because it's not being awarded any points. Now, take a look at what happened. I believe it was in 2020 when they gave an award and cash to the winner of the best posing, at the Arnold. I think Sergio Oliva won that. Mm-hmm. Sergio Jr. won that one, and people will start putting time into developing their pose routine if they know that there's either prize money or points associated with it.
Yeah.
And I do believe that in talking to the promoters that there's going to be a posing award at the Mr. Olympia this year.
Oh, really? Well, don't you think it's kind of sad that they have to award them so they can get their posing together?
Well, again, I don't blame the athletes if they're not either being awarded points during the judging or if they're not being awarded cash. I know that I would do it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel that God created me to in turn create something good with myself and the things that I lay my hand to, including my body. Yeah. And so I want to present my creation, my art to the best of my ability, and in doing that, I give something to the audience that they can walk away with, something that they can appreciate, something beautiful, and I glorify my creator at the same time.
Yeah, true. I mean, if I compare in your era and even the early 90s and mid 90s, almost everybody posed well because it was because you look up to people and they all posed well. Everybody was posing. And when you look at the Olympia last year, there were guys on stage that just didn't know how to pose. Even some mandatory poses.
It's unfortunate. It really is. But again, I think that it just comes back to what they're being judged on. If they're being judged as part of the criteria on the presentation, even if it's just a small amount, and listen, this is what I tell Hunter. It's if the posing even sways the judges this much, okay, at that world level, at that professional level, sometimes the degrees of difference between physiques are 1%, 2%, 3%. Mm-hmm. So if you have a beautiful presentation and it captivates the minds of the judges and it elicits a greater audience response, it might be what
it still helps you a little bit, yeah.
Over the edge. Everything else being equal, it's like, man, the judges can't make up their mind. Mm-hmm. And this guy moves like a statue, and it's just beautiful to watch. Don't think for a second that doesn't work on you subconsciously as a judge.
Probably does.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. The other thing is this: if you're going to work so hard, it's a matter of pride. It's a matter of self-pride. If you're going to work that hard on your physique, do you really want to be sloppy in the way you present it? That is a world-class sculpture of flesh that you just created, and you're just going to throw it up there and pose no better than a rank amateur at their first competition?
Or maybe not even.
Do you want the world to know you for that? Because let me tell you something. Okay, 20 years from now, these guys at the Olympia, they'll be sitting where I'm at. They're retired. Okay, and there'll be new guys coming up. And history, okay, is such that the physiques 20 years from now are going to be that much better than the physiques today, right? But what will endure is if you are captured on video and you are presenting your body in a beautiful, fluid, statue in motion fashion, that captures the mind of the viewer. Okay, I wasn't the biggest guy on stage. I'm not going to be known as the guy that brought the most muscularity to the Olympia stage, but I'm known as the guy that was a great poser on the Olympia stage. And I know that there's a lot of classic bodybuilders today that look back on what I did, my art form back then, and they have used it as a jumping off point to develop their own styles.
Yeah. There's one athlete that comes to mind when I look at your post routines back in the days, and there's one athlete in the whole roster today, not on the open, in the classic, that reminds me of Labrada. And I told him that right backstage after he got off stage at the Olympia last year, Terrence Ruff.
100%.
I told him.
And I had the privilege of meeting that young man in Tampa when Hunter was competing. And we actually met at Dave Bautista's private gym. He was kind enough to open it up to us. And Terrence and I went off into a corner and we started doing some posing together.
Yes.
And we promised each other that we would do a posing video sometime. And I think that it's going to light up the bodybuilding internet when we do.
Yeah.
You know, old school meeting new school. But I could not agree with you more. That is one young man that has taken the art of posing up to another level and is very serious about presentation.
And very similar to you. He's not the biggest guy. He will never be the biggest guy. He knows it, but still, look, he's second place at the Olympia. And I told him when he got on stage, you remind me of Lee Labrada. And I had no idea about the story you just told me. I heard this for the first time. So I really, and I remember I was doing the commentary, and I mentioned it during the commentary that this guy reminds me of Lee Labrada when it comes to posing. And Sean Ray agreed too, because it's unbelievable.
You know, he's very fluid. We're very excited also, Dennis, that we're going to have him guest posing at my upcoming bodybuilding show here in Texas.
Oh, okay.
We've got the Lee Labrada Classic here in Houston coming up August 7th, and Terrence is going to be guest posing there. So
Awesome.
that'll be really exciting.
Sounds great. Brother, I appreciate you making the time for me. I know you got things to do. I'm going to let you go on this note. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart one more time to come on to chat it up with me for a little bit. And I hope when we air this podcast that these guys listen to what you have to say when it comes to posing, because they all need to take a page out of your book and start, paying attention to their bodies.
Thank you for that, Dennis. And I also want to mention that anybody that wants any kind of additional posing tips, I've got a set of free videos on our Labrada Nutrition YouTube channel. It's called Posing Like a Pro. If they go there, they can get them for free, and they'll also find them on Lee Labrada Classic back.
Awesome. All right. I'm glad you just mentioned
Dennis,
that.
thank you so much.
I will hit you up for one of them samples when it comes to intro workouts, just so you know. Thank you, Lee. I appreciate it, man. God bless you.
Coming your way.
Stay safe.
God bless you. Thank you, Dennis.
Awesome.